The Law Be With You podcast show, also known as Christian Fandom Geek on YouTube, is now part of the Red 5 network. Red 5 is a network of podcast shows aimed at bringing great quality content, especially Star Wars. And so look forward to some awesome collaborations on the Red 5 network with the Law Be With You podcast show. Welcome to the Law Be With You podcast show, also called Christian Fandom Geek on YouTube. We have our good friend and Tolkien expert Luke Sewell back with us again.
Tolkien
Luke,
expert.
every collaborator on the show has like a comment.
Has a title, yeah.
You all have a title. You've heard the other ones, I'm sure you have. So you all have a title.
I'll take Tolkien expert for sure.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So what have you been up to since we had you on last time on the show?
That's a good question. I've been up to a fair bit, actually. I've been doing some illustration work for a magazine, which is it's one of my favorite magazines as well. So that's been like a dream job, really. That's taken up a bit of time. I've been doing some artwork for a summer exhibition here in Brum for the Birmingham Design Festival. So that's going to be happening sort of mid-August time. And then I've been doing my regular job in the picture framing shop, where we've been really busy. So that's been great. I've also been reading Morgoth's Ring, you'll be pleased to know, which is this is where it gets really geeky. It's the 10th, it's the 10th volume of the history of Middle Earth, but it's got some fascinating writing in there from Christopher Tolkien and from his dad, from J.R.R. Tolkien, about the legendarium, about some of the sort of deeper stuff behind the stories, which we might have to cover in a later episode. Actually, it's been really good.
Oh, I think so. I think we that sounds amazing, absolutely. And the thing is, on the show, we've got a lot of fans that listen to the show, either on Podcast Player or on YouTube, who are big either Star Wars fans or Lord of the Rings fans, and they seem to be the episodes that really draw the most sort of viewers and things like that. So we're doing something right, and we've got great collaborators like Luke Sewell on the show. So we were doing something right indeed. Now, you do, obviously, like I say, you're very busy. So thank you for being on once again. And obviously, we've talked for a while, Luke, about the idea of getting you to do a Star Wars themed episode. But obviously, I know how much your heart is drawn towards Lord of the Rings. So we thought, you know what? Let's kind of merge both passions together.
The ultimate crossover episode.
The ultimate crossover episode.
Ambitious project since Infinity War.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So we're crossing over. So if you listen at home or wherever you listen to the show, if you're a Star Wars fan, this is for you. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you're a Tolkien fan, this is for you.
Oh, dreamy.
Dream combination, man. Dream combination. Okay, so let's do this. Now, obviously, you are a Star Wars fan, aren't you? You do I haven't just kind of completely made you do a franchise you're not into. You are a Star Wars.
I mean, I was, yeah. Less so now for various reasons, which I'm sure we'll get around to discussing.
Not Kathleen Kennedy, is it?
No. I'll always love, particularly the original and Empire Strikes Back, and I have a soft spot for The Force Awakens and for The Phantom Menace too. Actually, I was into both Lord of the Rings and Star Wars as a kid, and it's weird to think actually that the prequel films and the Lord of the Rings films came out at a similar time, because in my head those are sort of completely separate experiences for me, but those obsessions were probably happening at a similar time when I was a kid.
What an awesome time to grow up, hey?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Of all the billions of years we could have been born in, Aaron, just old enough to grow up with those two film series.
Amazing. Yeah, can't argue with that. Totally can't argue with that at all. Now, tell us about your Star Wars story, Luke. What got you into Star Wars, and who was your favorite character? Who did you get drawn towards in the Star Wars universe?
Yeah, my dad got me into Star Wars. I was only 6 when Episode 1 came out, so I wasn't aware of Star Wars being a big deal, but he obviously was. He was born in 1960, so he'd have been 17
Yeah.
when the first one came out. And he really wanted to watch it at the cinema. So, but obviously I had to watch the originals first. So I think we hired 4 and 5 on video from Slough Blockbuster, where I grew up.
Oh, video! Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Yes! Oh my gosh!
And we watched those. And then we went to watch Phantom Menace at the cinema, and by that time I was hooked. I mean, I know you look back at that film as being not very good now, but as a 6-year-old, I flipping loved that.
Yeah, of course you would.
I think we ended up watching Return of the Jedi much later. I think Slough Blockbuster either didn't have it or someone else was borrowing it or something. We had to get it. We had to get that much later, and then obviously watched all the other prequels as they came out. Really, and when The Force Awakens came out in 2015. I went to watch that I think 4 or 5 times in the cinema. So yeah, and my favorite character growing up was probably Luke Skywalker for obvious reasons. I was very enamored with a film that had like a Luke as its main character. I thought that was great.
Yeah, of course. The most famous. I mean, if we're counting, we're not counting like Luke from the Bible, are we? So I mean, who would be the most famous Luke?
Yeah, and I mean, even then, it might be a close one.
Yeah, I think it might be. To be honest, I think it would be. Okay, so now we all love the battles. I mean, we're looking at Star Wars, look at Lord of the Rings, and we all love these sort of battles between good and evil. And it's an archetypal theme, and from this sort of archetypal theme, and listeners of the show will know we've spoke about this before on the show, comes the hero's journey. Now, the 2 central protagonists that obviously really come to mind in our sort of modern time, especially for say someone like you, Luke. You think of times that you've got into Lord of the Rings and Star Wars right now. Is obviously Luke Skywalker and Frodo from Lord of the Rings. Now, what comparisons do you find between Luke and Frodo in their hero's journey?
So I mean, I guess this might be a bit of a stretch, but I think one of the biggest ones is that neither of them, this is definitely more so the case for Frodo, but they're almost unexpected heroes in that Luke comes from this really obscure little planet where he's cooped up with his aunt and uncle on a, what is it? Is it a moisture farm or something?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
There we go, on a desert planet, and gets sort of plucked from nowhere to join this quest, which is really similar to sort of Frodo in the Sleepy Shire. I guess as those films goes on, Luke grows into that role a little bit more. He becomes this sort of kind of like warrior monk figure with the lightsaber and everything. In a way, in a sense that where Frodo's kind of always a hobbit. But you look at Star Wars and you think kind of like the cool, obvious hero is kind of Han Solo, and Luke is a less obvious one. So I see a kind of affinity between Frodo and Luke there. On a deeper level, they both have these kind of like priestly roles. So for Luke, it's this kind of obvious, he becomes a Jedi Knight. He joins this sort of monastic religious order. He has to undergo this sort of ascetic training with Yoda, and then he's able to do battle with the sort of demonic forces of evil. But it's been said in Lord of the Rings that there's been a lot of writing on how Gandalf, Aragorn, and Frodo represent these different elements of what are called the messianic offices. So this idea that like Christ is the Messiah has to be a prophet, a king, and a priest. So the prophet sort of represented by Gandalf, a lot of people reckon. The king is obviously Aragorn, and Frodo is the priest, which is probably the least obvious of the three.
I'd say so. Yeah. I think
But traditionally, the role of the priest is for making offerings and sacrifices. If we're talking about that sort of messianic role in the Old Testament, and that was something that priests were to give their whole lives to. And that's kind of something that's been similar in church history as well. But I think I see that in Frodo and Luke. They both give up their lives for others during the course of their journeys. I mean, that's true of Frodo's decision to take the ring. But Luke, he sort of volunteers to give up himself for his friends in Empire Strikes Back. He has that sort of vision of them suffering. And so he leaves Yoda on Dagobah and goes to Cloud City. And then in Return of the Jedi, he refuses to kill his father, even though the Emperor wants him to. Which immediately looks like it's going to sort of result in certain death. And Frodo is ultimately, his life is sacrificed by the quest that he undergoes. Like he says to Sam, like, we set out to save the Shire and it has been saved, but not for me. Like the wounds that he suffers are too much for him, and he has to leave and go into the West. I think probably as well, like Frodo going up that hill at the end of Return of the King is probably the most Christ-like image we have in Lord of the Rings. Both Luke and Frodo don't get married either. They don't pair up like some of the other characters do, which I think is quite priest-like. Bilbo never gets married either, which is unusual for hobbits, apparently.
And I know with Luke in the Legends books and materials, he does get married in those.
Mara Jade romance. That stuff's not canon now anymore, Aaron.
It's not it's not canon anymore. Oh my! That's a very controversial one. So a lot of the Star Wars fans.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's difficult for me to bear. I remember reading all of those extended universe comics in the library growing up.
Oh my gosh!
Hours in Slough Library.
So I'm guessing from that reaction, like you're not agreeing with Disney Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy on this one.
Like to be honest, I'm not that. I don't get that pent up on what's canon anyway. Like I don't need Disney to tell me what is and isn't the story that I get to enjoy. Like I flipping loved Force Awakens at the cinema, and I still do enjoy that film. But I'll enjoy reading all of those, the Grand Admiral Thrawn comics and especially those Jedi Knight computer games with Kyle Katarn. I love all of that. So I can enjoy that.
There you go. Brilliant. Okay, so you're saying that they're kind of unmarried, they're kind of priestly roles. Obviously, we're talking in the films, they're certainly, and obviously in Lord of the Rings, the book as well. They're unmarried and whatnot.
They both have to sort of bear kind of evil and temptation. I think for Luke, the most obvious one is he has that scene in the cave where on Dagobah, where he sees his face in Vader's mask, and that's effectively, it's almost this sort of temptation in the desert kind of scene where it's revealed that, I guess his biggest fear is that he'll become the thing that he's trying to destroy. And that's the whole plot of Lord of the Rings, really, isn't it? Is Frodo's entire journey is defined by do you use the ring and become the thing that you're trying to defeat, or do you defeat the enemy in a higher way? And the biggest one, which I only really thought of when you gave me this question for this episode, is that the idea of eucatastrophe that we talked about before. I would argue that both Luke and Frodo sort of succeed in their failure. So both of their journeys end in a failure to be victorious in the way that you expected them to be, and yet they are anyway. So for Frodo, that's in claiming the ring, and yet through Gollum's intervention, the quest being achieved anyway. For Luke, it's the whole setup of Empire and Return of the Jedi is that he has to defeat Vader. He decides in the end that he's not gonna do that, and so the Emperor is gonna kill him. And it's in that moment that actually, I guess it appeals to the love that's still there in his father, and so they're able to defeat evil in a different way to the way that was expected. I know that apparently a lot of people, when they watched that for the first time, thought it sucked. That was rubbish.
Really?
A big fight and Luke beat Vader. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
there we go.
I think the sort of what you've just said there, and you just think of I know it makes me think the faith that Luke had in Anakin, in Vader, to know that there was some good in him, that kind of redemptive arc there. He's the only one that's believing that. You know what I mean?
For sure. Not not even Ben and Yoda, I feel like, even believe that. There's a bit
No?
where Luke says, like, I can't kill my own father. And Ben says something like, oh, then the Emperor's already won. And it's like, oh, that sucks. So yeah, like, and I guess that sort of that determination to be like, this could cost me my life, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. It's the thing that sort of I've set my heart on. I think it's quite special.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lord Be With You podcast show on Christian Fandom Geek. I really appreciate every one of you who listen to the show via podcast player or on YouTube as Christian Fandom Geek. We're also on the Red 5 network as well. Really appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this awesome project and enterprise. I've got some great collaborators on the show as well, having some awesome episodes, and we're really glad that you are part of the ride. Keep listening to the show. Also, you can follow the show on Twitter. If you put in the Lord Be With You podcast show or Lord Be With You, it will come up on Twitter as well. So if you want to interact with the show, leave a comment and leave a suggestion for future episodes. Would be really happy to engage with you as fans of the show. Keep safe, and we'll be with you very, very soon on the Lord Be With You podcast show.